Hey folks, Steve here with another Nations in Arms video. We're going to be looking at the 1800 Marengo campaign in this video, which is special in that it is only a single turn scenario. And in fact, if you were to look at the uh, as written playbook, it is this scenario that is used as an example of play and sort of is paired with the 1796 Italy scenario as the two sort of like starter scenarios for the game. So for me, it's a little out of order because I played the War of the First Coalition first, but this could be for folks who purchase this game. This could be your first scenario. Now, the example of play actually does a pretty good job of playing through the scenario and kind of showing how the game works. I'm sure that as I play through this, I will make different decisions, or things will end up different from the die rolls and all of that. But it's going to make for an abbreviated set of actions. Now, this is the second scenario that is part of the War of the Second Coalition coverage in this game box. The thing about it is because it's only one turn, what folks should understand is there is some chunk of the War of the Second Coalition that doesn't really get any detail in the game. So that's maybe like the one gap that this game kind of has that you don't really see the rest of 1800 or 1801, or even I guess there wasn't a whole as much going on in 1802. But there's still a couple, there's certainly some action that could have occurred in a game form here in the War of the Second Coalition that we don't get. But generally, I think that's okay. When this scenario is over, we will be looking at the much more dramatic 1805 campaign, or I'm going to split that up into smaller campaigns. I'm not sure yet how I want to handle it. So for this one, much of the action is going to be focused around the main theaters of operations that we've seen up to this point. So Holland, potentially, and Hanover up here in the north. There are very, very large armies in Germany at the Army of Germany for the French, and then the Army of the Rhine for the Austrians. They're gigantic. They're gigantic armies. They're huge. They're like 14 steps each or more, and it could prove to be some pretty cataclysmic combats and bloodletting up here. And then we have this whole situation in Italy, which is sort of a highlight of the scenario because that is where Napoleon Bonaparte will very likely be operating, and he starts back here. The Austrians, as you can see, control most of northern Italy, the only exception being Genoa, and even then they have an army besieging Messina at Genoa itself, and then outside of Nice, there is a Austrian force that could move into Nice and begin besieging or fighting its way. So if you think back to Suvorov's last campaign, right, we performed very well as the coalition, but this is sort of reflecting the historical situation, which is the coalition had, even after the Russians withdrew, the Austrians managed to take control of much of northern Italy, including Piedmont. And then Napoleon left Egypt and went back to Paris and kind of got himself in a position of consul and all of that good stuff. And he's arranged it to strike back. So Moreau commanding an army at Strasbourg against the large Austrian German army, and then Italy being left to Napoleon, because that's sort of where he made a name for himself. He will return to Italy to push the Austrians back out. So this sort of the Italy round two for Napoleon himself. Because this is only a single turn, it makes things very compressed, which means that the die rolls are going to have a very high impact on whatever happens here, right? If we have one combat, it's a very significant combat, and one side rolls boxcars and the other side rolls snake eyes, that's going to have a dramatic effect on the overall scenario. It is going to be very short. Because it's going to be short, I may end up showing the details of this campaign more than I have the last few videos, where you're really just seeing the aftermath and the overall narrative. Because it's so short, I could probably afford to show you individual activations that may matter, and how things operate a little more tactically. We haven't done that in a while. This might be the right opportunity to do it. The victory conditions here are a bit odd, or at least they're different from what we've encountered in the past. So for this one, what we are going to end up dealing with is a victory point setup. Now, this is the Banania rules, and just FYI, if you're looking at the Banania rules, there's a bunch of stuff that was mistakenly put in here associated to the Marengo campaign that are actually reinforcements for the 1796. There was a mistake on Banania's part, but got that marked here. But here's the victory condition. So the coalition wins if they get 10 victory points. So if they can control Turin and Piedmont, Genoa, Munich, and Toulon, that's worth 1 victory point each. So they could get up to 4 there. Control of Milan, Hanover, Ulm, Strasbourg, or Amsterdam is 2 VP each. They start with control of some of these, so they just need to retain that. If they demoralize an enemy army, they can get some victory points, so they'll definitely want to win some fights. But they'll lose victory points if their own armies are demoralized. And then the same thing for actual eliminated corps, with honors of war not counting. So that's sort of something to keep in mind. And if for some reason we get to kill Bonaparte or remove him from the map or whatever, that's 3 victory points right there. France wins if the coalition doesn't get 10. So you can imagine, there are ways to get victory points by defeating an enemy army and then the control objectives. So, maybe the Austrians get really lucky and completely wipe out Moreau's army. Well, gosh, that's going to be worth a huge amount of victory points. And then if they could just hold on to a few places, they'll do just fine. So what I may need to do is keep track of victory points on the money chart or something to just try to keep in mind what the victory point status is and look at who controls what. And I should probably put my red bingo chits on the objectives so I don't forget what they're worth, and maybe even put like 2 bingo chits on the locations that are worth 2 so we can count it off properly. Because sometimes in games where like you need to keep track of victory points, you can get kind of mixed up in counting them. I remember having a little bit of trouble with that with Mighty Endeavor at a convention last year, where there's just so many things you need to count, and did you already count that one or not, and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see what that looks like. But again, kills and demoralized armies count for victory points, and then control objectives for important places that are all along these main fronts, and that is it. Now the activation cup is going to have all the activation markers. There will be no winter quarter, so this will be a long spring, almost like a summer turn basically. No neutrals. I don't even think. Yeah, the extra naval markers are not going to be in there. So we'll still see plenty of activations, and the French do start with the only card, and in fact, I'm pretty sure this is the only card, period, unless I'm mistaken here. Because it seems like the scenario, we don't have an interface, so we're not drawing any new cards. There's only one card, and that's the forced march card, which France has, which allows Napoleon to go, well, allows a leader, whether it's Napoleon or someone else, to activate a 3rd time with attrition, which may be needed as a last resort to make sure that the coalition does not win the scenario. So I think with that, I'll do a break. I'll probably add those bingo chits to the map so everything's a little bit more clear for victory point purposes, and then we'll get to pulling chits. Okay, so to get started with this scenario, the setup, according to the chart, is that the French have initiative, meaning they get to pick their activation chit to start the game. Then from there on else, we'll be picking from the cup. I actually think the example of play has a good option for us to pursue as well. So we're going to have them use the Empire Land 4 chit to go first. This is advantageous in many ways in this game, I found, because the earlier your level 4 your 4 chit comes out for your side, the better off you are. It means that whatever, if you don't have much to move, then you don't move much, right? But maybe you have a couple of key leaders that go, like Napoleon, like other leaders, and then as you pull the lower level chits, the lower numbered chits out of the cup, those forces could move again for their forced march, or you just have more options at that point. What can happen is if that level 4 chit comes out late, is that you have nothing to activate, and your opponent may basically get 2 back-to-back chits where you've not been able to do much in response at all, and that can be powerful for them. So it is good to try to get that fort chit out now if we have the option, and let the other chits come out how they will, because you can't have back-to-back chits. There must be an opponent's land chit to come out. So in this case, there's only two leaders that the French can activate. We can either activate Massena, who is being besieged at Genoa, which I would not advise we try to do. He's not strong enough to make a breakout himself, but we can activate Bonaparte. Now, this is going to be similar to what happens in the example of play, but there's a few restrictions. Ideally, we would like to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like the example of play has it, but our Austrians set up here in Turin, which means we can't use extended move. We can only use extended move, which increases your force's movement points by 50% bonus if we don't move next to an enemy. So if we did spend 6 movement points, which would be 50% more than the units start with, which is 4 for French infantry, we could make it there, but because there's an Austrian force, we actually can't do extended move there. So what we'll do is we'll do the next best thing, and we'll get as far as we can get. So Napoleon will move 1 to Genoa. We'll spend 1 movement point to integrate Monsi's force here. So we'll take this infantry and add it to the off-map holding box for Napoleon and Monsi as well into that group. And then let's move the army of Italy first. So 1, 2, 3, 4 into the mountain hex. And while we're here, just so I don't forget, we'll go ahead and have one of our trains go to its depot side here, and we'll just place it here so we remember that it's here. I have the rest of the trains on the holding box. The French army here started with 2. We're going to leave 1 as part of our critical supply network. So 1 depot here in the mountain passes is where Bonaparte will end his activation. There's no interception opportunities or anything like that. If we had moved into the forest, Melas could have tried to intercept. Again, we didn't have enough movement to get there. But I don't think Melas would have even tried to intercept, because when you look at all the forces that he starts with versus Napoleon, it would probably be a losing fight to begin with. Much better to try to try to gather back up Ott and Colorat to face Napoleon than this force by itself, which would probably be defeated, but we don't know for sure. So there you go. Now these guys, that depot is important because we're going to count 1 from the depot back to a supply source as part of the supply link. 1, 2, 3, 4 movement points to Lyon, which is a supply source. So if Napoleon does eventually move out of here, let's say he just moves to here, he'll still be in supply because he's going to count basically 1, 2 movement points to the depot, and 1, 2, 3, 4 from the depot here. You can see the movement costs make supply really rather tricky. And so if Napoleon wants to extend his supply line any further from there when he gets moving again, he's either going to need to drop another supply wagon into a depot, or drop a detachment, which is going to cost a step, or he's going to take Turin, which I think is really the goal here, so that then Turin as a supply link goes 1, 2, 3, 4, then 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is where the fortresses become really critical to advance. Either you're going to take the fortress, and which we need to do anyway for victory point purposes, and garrison it back up, then it continues to be a supply link. And so that makes a lot of sense to try to do from here, and then we'll have enough supply tracing to get to Genoa or Milan, and that will be the main source of our supply tracing from there. So that is it for Napoleon's first move. That's as far as he can really go, and we'll go ahead and put a first activation marker on Napoleon. So he is done. Okay, so we're going to pull from the Chit Cup next to see what the next activation is. Really, it's going to have, for land combat purposes or land movement purposes, it will have to be a coalition chit. We just don't know what value, and that will determine who can activate and how. So we'll pull the chit, and we get Empire Naval 1, which means we can actually use this. gosh, this sounds a whole lot like the um, example of play, even more so now. Um, what is there to do? I think the main thing, in terms of the actual French naval units, we have units in Toulon who could come out and try to fight Nelson, which I think would be probably not a great idea. We could try these guys and come out to the Bay of Biscay. That might be of use. We could also try to break out of Brest. I do think maybe trying to make something happen at the Bay of Biscay would be valuable. We could try to break out of Amsterdam, which is also being blockaded, but I don't see much ability to shift anything there. So I think here to here is probably the most advantageous thing for us. But I am going to think about this because at most, all this is going to do is we could try to go for broke and create a situation where the French can't come across. Not that the I'm sorry, the British can't come across. Not that they have a lot of forces to do that with, but to take the channel might be of some value to us. Otherwise, I'm not sure what we can do. Try to make a general breakout. That's maybe the best we could hope for. But let me think on this, and we'll see what happens. Well, with luck being the way that it is, I think we'll go ahead and try to kick some butt here and try to come out and play. So we'll have these guys come out. I think we will just go ahead and have a naval battle here. So basically, the French are going to get 2 dice plus 3 for the bonuses here, and the British will have a two dice plus 1. So French roll the 6 plus 3 is 9. Oh my gosh, this is exactly like the example of play. British. Oh well, this is going to be different. The British roll boxcars, so they get a 13 to 9. That's a difference of 4. Reasonably confident that that is not a good time for them. The loser retreats and 1 fleet is sunk. So I guess we'll sink this guy, and they got to retreat. So much for that. Could we try elsewhere? I think we could. We could try to sink Nelson if we wanted to. Sure, why not? And we might as well. It's a one-turn game, right? So the French they roll almost boxcars. 11 plus 3 is 14 versus the British. 5 plus 4 is 9. 14 to 9. Difference of 5. The loser retreats and 1 fleet is sunk. So this guy is sunk, and he's going to retreat to the Western Med, I guess. And boy, these guys could pursue because they have 8 maneuver. So 1, I can't remember if combat costs 2, but that's fine. Let's go to 3. And does Nelson try to get away? Yeah, I think he tries to get away. So we'll try to maneuver out. And I think that's a failure. So now we're going to fight. 2d6 plus 3 for the French. Oh, they roll snake eyes. What a wild stretch of luck. So they only get a 5, and Nelson's probably going to crush them with even 1 die. They rolled a 5 plus 3 is 8. So a difference 3 or less. Those are retreats without any losses. All right, so these guys are going to retreat back. He is fine there. Those guys are basically done. And I don't see much reason to do much else from a naval standpoint. Maybe we would try to break out here. I mean, let's try it, I guess. French die roll, they get a 10. British die roll, they get a 12. So yeah, they don't manage to get out of there. Okay, well, I think that's going to be it for the French naval activation. We'll go ahead and pull the next chit, which must be a British land chit, or a British naval chit, I guess, for that matter. And we get, nope, that's a French chit. And okay, so we get the Coalition Land 1. This means that everything can activate. Every land unit can functionally activate, even one-off units. Granted, I don't know that. Well, we'll see. So let me think through this, and then we'll start activating and moving guys. Okay, so here we are for the Coalition Land 1 activation. I already did a couple of activations very quick just to show we've got the Neapolitan army heading up, and we've got, let's see, I moved someone else somewhere else. Oh, the British coming close to the Boulogne crossing at the channel, just to get some pressure going. But otherwise, we are going to want to activate these Austrian forces here for sure. And I think what we want to do is begin with Ott, so he can try to finish the siege of Genoa. So he is besieging with 3 steps with some engineers. He's besieging Messina, who has a better leader rating, and Messina has 1 step plus the 2 steps of the fortress itself. And this is a victory point location for 1 victory point. So he'll spend 2 movement points to try to siege, and he gets a +1 for the marker that we start with. Let's see, our artillery superiority. I would bet that we actually don't have artillery superiority. Yeah, we don't. So leader differential is actually a -1 because Messina has a better leader than Ott. But we do get a +1 for our engineers, and that's it. So it's really a +1. So 2d6 +1. Let's see what we get. Didn't roll particularly well. 5 + 1 is 6. Is a no effect. So this becomes a +2. And I think we would go again. We'd go ahead and spend 2 more movement points to try again with Ott, his force. And, well, does he actually have enough movement points to do that? He might not actually be able to do that because these infantry only have 3 movement points. So he's done. He's done. He failed. He did not succeed. You kind of got to watch because some of the time you definitely can be going 4 movement points and try again on a Fortress 2, but in this case, he's done. With that in mind, I think what we want to do is probably pull Melas back. I don't think it makes sense for him to hold at Turin, just knowing like we would probably lose a fight against Napoleon. So I think what we'll do is we'll just go, let's see, what's the easiest path around here? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's going to take 3 movement points, but we'll go ahead and do that. So we'll go ahead and move Melas here. He's going to end up absorbing Ott and the forces that were with Ott. And just the way that this the activation system is going to work is that they just all have the first activation marker, and we got to put Messina back as well. So we've moved down to basically just put us in a better position if we fight Napoleon, because Napoleon's going to have to take Turin, so he can't jump on the army right away. And then what we might even do, let's see, I have to wonder, does Kellerat try against Nice? No, I think what we're going to do, we're going to pull Kellerat back as well, and he's just going to end up in the same stack as the other army. So this is going to give our leader Melas quite a potent stack, all things considered. And then this way, Napoleon cannot divide and conquer. So a pullback, we continue to siege Genoa, and that's going to be it for that. As we look to the north, we have this situation, which is a little less clear. I mean, I think we're stuck in a position where we kind of like this is the only other stuff we're going to activate. The guys in Hanover are going to stay there for now, I think, because he's outnumbered. Um, but for the German sector, these are the big armies. I think what we could do, we could have Charles move forward. He could absorb Johann, but is he already out of steps to hold? 4, 8, 12, 13, 15. If we try to absorb Johann, he would end up uh, not having enough steps. Like he'd be over his command limit. But what we could do is we could send Charles in to fight Davout. If he's defeated, then he'll retreat and he'll absorb this stack and replace any losses potentially that we'd fight or that we'd have lost in a fight. Now you'll notice I have Davout here because technically, as far as I could tell, the stack with Moreau was illegally stacked because 1, 2, 3, 4, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. There's 13 steps in the stack, and Moreau can only command 12 steps as the leader, but Davout has the steps. So this is one of these weird things. I don't know how to look at this, that maybe one of these French units should be it should be Moreau in charge of the army because that's historically who was in charge. Um, and maybe we'd have to choose a French step loss, but I don't see why we couldn't just have Davout in command because he's got a better rating. This is one of those weird things that, like, I don't know. Maybe there's some errata that should be applied to the scenario where this stack starts with one less step, and you're supposed to make Moreau the army leader. I don't know. So I think what we will do, we will have him go, basically 1, 2, 3 to try to fight Davout at Strasbourg, and I think Davout will go ahead and let the fight happen. I need to look at this because if they have 13 steps, the Austrians have 15 steps. Well, I don't know. I feel like the Austrians need to go on offense here. If they're fortunate enough to push the French back, that's going to put them in a really good position rather than yeah, I don't know. I feel like this could go poorly for the Austrians, but let's go ahead and try it. So they make their move, and again, it's going to be 13 to 15, so there's no real terrain odds. There's a -1 for the Austrians due to the bridge that they're crossing. Nobody's out of supply. Charles gives a +2. Davout gives a +2. We'll go ahead and have Riche as a subordinate leader. I think Davout will go ahead and have Lon as. I make sure that. Oh no, I'm sorry. Have Ney as our secondary leader for the French side. Lead assault modifier. The French get a +2. Yeah, maybe this was a bad idea. Just a +1 for the Austrians. Artillery superiority is going to go to 1, 2, 3, 9. 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8. So the Austrians actually have artillery superiority and let's see, 3 cavalry steps versus 3 cavalry steps. So nobody's got a cavalry advantage. Yeah, boy, this is The edge is to the French, who have a +6 to their die roll. The Austrians have a +4. So you might, I think there is a good question of like, is this a good move? I'd say this is a good move for the Austrians because if they can be fortunate enough to win, then they'll be in good shape. If they lose, but the losses are somewhat similar, then the Austrians will retreat here. They'll get their steps replaced. We could bring this guy up as reinforcements and basically be able to go and fight again and wear the French out and then maybe snatch Strasbourg before the end of the turn. But we'll keep the French from being able to push into Ulm and all that good stuff. In terms of morale, the French morale is 4 to start, plus their leader bonus. The Austrian morale is 3, so the French do have a morale advantage. So we'll roll the. I'm sorry. This is a major battle, I think. So we need to do the tactics cards. So let me prepare the tactical deck. And we'll do this. So it's been a little while since we've had one of these, so I'm going to have to reference the rules once more on how this works. Tactics cards. All right, so each side will get a tactics card automatically. So I'm just shuffling the tactics deck. So you have one for the Austrians, one for the French. Combat overall commander's modifier. Each get 2 more for that. Let's see. France has finished its military reform, so they get another one. And then they can use 1 tactical card. They can use 2 tactical cards. Okay, and we've got to have the leaders do a leader check, subordinates, to see if we get to use a second card. So, I mean, I'll just roll it really quick now. So, it's basically just a die roll modified by the combat modifier. So for Ney, he got it, so the French will get an additional tactics card they can play. And then for the Austrians, they fail. So as it happens, the French can use 2 cards out of these 4. So they can do a square. Okay, maybe not a big deal. Oh, they do have Grand Charge. But they're not going to be able to use this. They don't have enough cavalry. You have skirmishers. So this is probably one that we'll play, and then okay. Well, we really can't use. Boy, the only one that we can really use is skirmishers, which they will play. This will reduce the Austrian die rolls, and then the Austrian cards for these 3. Do they? Okay, they probably can play Grand Battery, and so the only one they can really do is play Grand Battery. They do have at least 8 artillery points, so this is kind of a wash. So for all of that fun, the tactics cards just put the armies right back to where they were. The French with a +6, the Austrians with a +4. So we'll go ahead and roll this. You can see how much longer this video gets when we're playing everything out, right? So the French are going to roll +6. They rolled a 7, +6 is 13, which is a 4-step loss for the Austrians, and then a leader check for the French. So we're just going to remember that. And then the Austrians are going to roll with a +4. And they rolled pretty good. A 9 +4 is also 13. Okay. Let me stop recording and just figure out the losses, and then we'll figure out what's going to happen next. Okay, so both sides have taken 4 step losses, which takes us out of major battle category for the second round. I do think they're going to fight a second round. So now it's 9 to 11 steps. I don't think that equates out to a modifier. We're going to re-rack all the modifiers, and in this case, as I'm pretty sure, um, let's see, yeah, we're going to put Salt in as the French. Um, and then definitely pouring everything in that they can. Artillery has changed up a little bit because of all the step losses, but the Austrians have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 artillery. The French have 1, 2, 4, 5, 6 artillery, so no one gets an artillery bonus. Nobody's going to get a cavalry bonus either. And amusingly enough, it just with the different leaders that are in play. Oh, I should say, Ney and De Hotpol are out of the scenario due to leader losses. They were really wounded, but that's enough for them to not come back. And then same thing with the Austrians. We've got some replacement random leaders drawn that are of middling quality. So both armies suffered some leader attrition there. So we're going to roll again, and it's the same die roll modifiers. It's just we're rolling on the minor battle now. So the French +6. Wow, French rolled badly. 4 + 6 is 10, which is going to be 2 step losses. And then the Austrians are rolling with a +4. They rolled a bit better. 7 + 4 is 11, which is 2 losses. So the French take 2 losses. The Austrians take 2 losses. And because of this, they do have to retreat because they didn't win, and so technically the defender wins. They're going to drop into here and basically absorb these guys. So that's going to cause one leader to get dismissed in that Austrian stack because of overstacking. Oh, okay. Let's see. They did lose, and I have to see if there's going to be a morale loss. Let's see. Okay, so we had. All right, we're going to roll a die to check the morale for that Austrian force, and they're fine. Okay, so they didn't demoralize. They wound up here. And now the step count, which is really what's important for the Austrians, it's all a matter of, are we winning the battle of attrition? The French have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 steps, while the Austrians have in the stack opposite here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And I think so. This guy's activation is done. But before we're totally done, I think we're going to have these guys join up. And this is just going to add yet another step to the stack. And we'll have another dismissed leader, but that kind of doesn't matter. So now it is still much more, I think, in the Austrians' favor. 1, 2, 12 to 12 to 7, which is nearly 2 to 1 odds. It's just, I think if the Austrians were to keep fighting like that, the French army would be falling apart, and Napoleon might have to think about coming back north. So I think that worked. And we'll get this first activation marker on Charles. And I think that's it for the coalition activation. I think all things considered, the Austrians don't feel too bad about that. I mean, you're dishing out so much damage. I should also take a look at the the eliminated corps count here because that's going to matter for victory purposes. Right now, it's a dead even. No, I'm sorry. It's not dead even, actually. The Austrians are losing out a little bit right now. Looks like the Austrians have lost 6 steps. The French have lost 4 steps. 2 eliminated corps, two eliminated corps for the French, 3 eliminated corps for the Austrians. So technically, um, it looks like the Austrians are getting the worst of that for the moment, but I think that may be okay. Anyway, we're going to go to the cup and we'll pull the next chit and see what we get. And we get Empire Land 3, which is a pretty good pull for them. So let's see what can be done here. I think we'll start to do is look in the north, and we'll have. Let's see which is the better stack. Probably the French stack. So we'll activate Augereau, go 1, 2, and just like the example of play, here's be an opportunity for Brock to try to intercept. I don't think he's going to do it though. He maybe did. Let me check the modifiers on interception. He does not have light cavalry with him. He doesn't have a leader. And okay, so he's okay. No, he did not. And then we'll have the French here for the combat. And the question is, does the Hanoverian units stay inside Hanover or not? Because Hanover is a fortress. And the problem is, if we let the French roll on the siege table, they could just get honors of war and get the victory point. So I think Brock needs to fight. Now this will be a skirmish fight, so it'll be 2 steps versus 2 steps. French have a +2, and I think that's it. I think those are all the only modifiers that really matter here. So we'll just roll it off really quick. French, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, they just enough to get there, right? We went 1. I'm sorry, he was here. 1, 2, 3, and so yeah, the combat skirmish, French roll +2. We got a 7, 8, 9 is a 0+, so we would technically win the fight on a tie. Austrians roll a 6. So the British Hanoverians lost, and so they will retreat inside the fortress, and we'll get 1 free roll for winning the battle. For the siege, we don't have artillery superiority. We do get a +1 for the leader, and I think that's it. So it's just a +1 to this fortress die roll and a fortress 1. And we got a 8 +1 is 9 is an assault. So in this case, we're going to have 2. I think it's going to come out to be nearly a wash, I'm sure, but French have 2 steps. The Hanoverians have 3 steps. That's going to be slight advantage. So yeah, doing the skirmish die roll for the assault. French rolled very poorly, and the Austrians rolled similarly poorly. And so what we're going to do is we're going to stick a siege +1 marker here and a first activation on Augereau. I don't think we want to move these guys because we might have to. Well, let me think about this for a second. I think we may need to move these guys down and go 1, 2, 3, 4, and just be in a position to have to go fend off some British, because that's looking like that might have to happen. So making progress there. Question is, do we have Davout try to chase the Austrians out. And I'm not sure that that's the best option, but I think the French enjoy some modifier advantages, and that might be the key thing. So you can see I'm being very aggressive, but in my mind, there's no reason not to. So I think we will activate this stack and we'll go for it. And I don't think the Austrians want to avoid combat because they really can't afford to be fighting outside of Ulm, where the French can pick up those victory points. So I think, the French are going to suffer a -1 across the river. I think that's going to have to be fine. I think they're going to also suffer for the numbers issue. But then the overall commander stuff, and then subordinate leaders, lead assault units. Artillery superiority is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for the Austrians. 1, 2, 3, 4 for the French, so the Austrians will get an advantage there. 3 and 3 for cavalry, so nothing else there. So this set of die rolls are actually against the French. So this is funny. As the Austrians, I attacked on odds that were probably not good, and they lost. Now the French are going to try the same thing, but maybe the French will have better luck. This is still a, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 7 against 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This is still a minor battle with 19 steps, so we'll see. French rolling +4. Ooh, they rolled boxcars, so maybe that's not going to happen. So 12 +4 is 16, which is going to be a 4 CL on them. I don't think the Austrians are going to be able to beat that, but we'll see what the dice gave us. So Austrian die roll +5. They rolled a 7, so 7 + 5 is a 12. So the French are clearly the winners. So the French are going to lose 2 steps, which is hurtful because it's going to, okay. Let me think about this for a second. There's another eliminated corps for the French, which helps even things up. And then the Austrians need to lose 4 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll do the leader checks. So the Austrians have to roll a couple leader checks here. So fine and fine for the Austrians. The French likewise need to roll. So Moreau is fine, and then Brunet is fine. Okay, so the exact opposite. And now, let's see. All right, so the Austrian morale was a 3 before the combat. You're supposed to check morale early. I tend to check morale afterwards and just recount what it was. It was 3 plus the leader bonus is 5, but the loss differential is 2. So it drops them back down to 3. So a 4, 5, or 6, I think, will cause these guys to be demoralized. So a 4, or 5, or 6. We rolled a 6, so they are demoralized, which means they're going to take additional step losses with a cavalry pursuit. So each light cavalry is going to be 2 steps, and then the cuirassiers, we don't have enough cuirassier steps to do more, so the French or the Austrians are going to take 2 more step losses. That's rough. Oof. So that's another set of losses. So this is going to be hurting the coalition victory points with this one. So these guys are going to have, will have had to have retreated and are demoralized, which I need to grab a marker for. And say we can retreat 2 steps. I might do that. And now we've got the Baden spot with Davout, which we can roll a quick siege roll on, which is going to be pretty good because we have, I think, we have artillery superiority +1. The combat value is another +2, so +3. Do we have engineers? We do. So +4, +5 for, okay. So we're probably going to take down this fortress really quick. 12 honors of war, and we're going to go ahead and just leave the Baden fortress as a fortress removed. And I think we got to stop after all of that. I'm reasonably confident we do. So that puts the French in a pretty good position for that. And then in the south, let's adjust the camera here. Likewise, I don't know that we want to do anything but hold here. I do think we want to go 1, 2, 3, 4 to take Turin. And we'll go ahead and, oh, whoops. There you go, guy. Took our depot with us. And we'll have the Army of Italy do a besiegement. We're going to have a lot of bonuses here. So it's certainly, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. +6, oof. Which we needed because I rolled a 3, so it's an assault. And this is taken, and we will, we're going to need to reactivate this fortress. So Napoleon will have taken it. And we'll get rid of the Austrian control marker here. That is, his activation is over. We do need to roll some supply now at the end of that. So he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 steps. But he, let's see, with a -2, I want to say, on the die roll. Pretty sure. And let's see, 7 and 5. There's a die roll to lose a step for attrition. And we're in the clear. Okay, so that's it for Mr. Napoleon, and at least I think it is. I think we have to stop moving when we do all of that. He went 1, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, he's out of movement points anyway. We still have a forced march card, but I think we're going to wait for it yet, right? Are there any other activations we want to take? No, I think that's quite enough. So we'll go to the cup. And we have Coalition Land 2, which should mean that most units can activate. Most units can activate. But let's see. Well, I think they got to try to take Genoa. But let's see if we can do a couple of interesting things here. So what I'd like to do is, to make sure we can retain control of Milan for victory point purposes, we're going to take Mac, and we are going to take a couple steps, and we're going to put them here to sit inside Milan so that Napoleon would have to besiege it. And that's going to give them their activation over. They're going to have to roll attrition, but the steps are so low. Yeah, they're fine. Here, we'll go ahead and do the uh, siege attempts, so spending two movement points, which is most of what they have. And yeah, Melis is just a +1. Okay, so artillery superiority, you betcha. Leader differential is a -1, though. Do they have engineers? They do. +1, +2, 3, 4. Okay, so +4 on the Fortress 2 chart for siege. We rolled an 11 plus, what did I say, 4? 13 is honors of war. So now the key thing here is this is not going to count for eliminated corps, but Massena and these guys are done. So I'm going to have to think about this, a way to make sure I don't count these guys for victory point purposes. I think that will do. And then he's going to spend a detachment that is with the Army of Italy, the Austrian Army of Italy, to put revive the garrison here. And then they're going to have to roll for attrition, and I think they're going to spend a supply wagon for this one. So 7 for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. -3. Oh, they're still going to have to roll. That's a shame. And they still take a step loss due to attrition. That's gnarly. All right. We'll go ahead and get rid of the baggage train we spent, which didn't help us enough. Okay, so that is it for this stack, and they did take control of Genoa. What else can we do? Try to do, let's see, move this guy 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or maybe rather we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I guess that doesn't really do them any good. I should have done a naval invasion or something with them, is what I should have done. They're fine. Now, up here in the north, gonna have these guys go basically 1, 2, 3, and I think they're gonna be out of movement anyway. Kind of a waste of movement, maybe, is what I'm doing here, and I should be. What I should be doing is doing a naval invasion. It's probably what I should be doing. So I need to think about how I'm screwing this up. But he's not really in a good position to do a naval invasion anyway. So I don't know. This scenario is weird. Okay, it's just weird. What we could do up here in the north is a sortie, and I think I'm going to try to do that. So it's going to be 2 steps versus 2 steps with a +2 for the French. They got a 9 and Snake Eyes for. Oh, geez, Snake Eyes for them, so they retreat back into the fortress. And I'm not even going to mark him with an activation marker. He's going to be kaput. Here, we can try to remoralize the troops. Force morale would be, let's say, a 4, 5, 6, 5, Okay, trying to remoralize, and we fail. I roll a 6. My gosh. Unreal. So these guys fail to rally. If I would have rolled anything but a 6, they would have rallied, and they failed. And now I'm going to have to see about attrition, which is not going to be good for them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps, and they're going to be rolling -1 plus 2. Geez, a +2. And fortunately, they rolled very low. So these guys don't have attrition, but they fail to be rallied, which is a big deal. Everybody else is kind of out of gas, aren't they? And most of everyone's already been activated quite a bit. Empire Land 1, which means everybody on the Empire side can activate. Shoot. This is where we would activate Napoleon again, probably. And then the other thing is, do we go for Ulm? What else do we do? I think the next thing is we're just going to move these guys here. Just make sure that we're covering, important locations. Is Antwerp actually important for this location? I can't remember. Maybe what he would have done is just gone home, because I think the British are out of gas. I really maybe should have done a naval invasion with them, but there's not much to do here. The scenario is so short, and if everything but one force is going to activate just twice, and one extra French force activates a third time, there's not a lot of options. Up here, we are going to roll on the siege, and so for this one, it is just a +2, I want to say, to the die roll. So +2 on Fortress 1. 7 is a 9, is an assault. This time, oof, okay. Okay, so the Hanoverians take a step loss inside the fort, and then I think there is a question of we can't demoralize on a skirmish battle, so I don't think that's a success. So that's one attempt, and then we're going to try again. Spend another movement point, and I'm reasonably confident these guys have 4 movement points. So second try with +2. What is actually a +3 to the die roll now on Fortress 1. We get a 9, which is another assault. 10, 11, okay. Okay, so here, the Hanoverian unit is gone. Which is another core loss for the coalition. And then I think we got to go again, and this is a +3, which makes it a +4 siege attempt. That's a 12 honors of war, and basically the French take control of Hanover. We'll go ahead and take a step loss off this force to garrison it, and that's going to be 2 victory points over to the French. At this point, there is a question of do the French need to do anything else, right? Or do we just say, nah, we're good, because pretty much every other coalition force is done activating, and the only chits that are going to come out that are left Say coalition 3. Is there anything that can happen? No, because everybody's done. So this is really a question of like, would the French need to do anything else to shift victory? Um, so I don't think they need to do anything to actually win. So maybe it's a question of, do they push any harder for a better victory condition, for better victory uh, marks. So let's look at the victory points that the Austrians have right now. So we have uh, 1 for Genoa, 2 for Milan, so that's 3. Um, they don't have Turin anymore. They still have Munich and they still have Ulm at the moment, so that's 3 more points. So they're up to 6. Uh, and then they don't have Hanover anymore, and they never got Amsterdam. And then in terms of the core losses, they're in the hole by 1, 2, 3 victory points. So they actually go back down to 3 victory points. So just looking at the chit draws, is there anything that could be done? Right now, the French could go. And what I would probably do is have him do a forced march, and he'd probably come over and try to take Milan. He would maybe succeed, and nobody else could activate to make a real big difference. This is sort of the reason why you don't activate everything early in case you want to have one move at the end. But given this army's demoralized and they're basically kaput, we could even see this force take Ulm. But all the fighting would do is open up the possibility for the Austrians to win a combat and basically come back on the eliminated corps. So I think what we would have here is that the French just pass, and then no matter what comes out of the chit, the coalition's done activating. They can't do anything more. When we get um, the other French chit, again, they would probably pass, and the situation would end with the Austrians, the coalition, only having 3 victory points, which is a victory for the French. So there you go, guys. I think that's it for this scenario. That's as far as I am going to want to take it because everything's already been activated. I think this scenario would be a little more interesting if it was opposed. Because again, I tend to be very aggressive in this solitaire, playing this game in particular, solitaire. I'm very aggressive, so I'm throwing the armies at each other every chance that they get, and it just, I'm all done with my actions a bit early. The Austrians had an opportunity maybe to get into Strasbourg to eliminate a French army. Oh, and they have a demoralized army, so technically they only have 2 victory points. I could easily have seen some of these combats go a little bit differently and have the coalition be closer to victory. I also think it's kind of a weird situation in terms of like, can the coalition really do any naval amphibious invasions? And maybe I should have tried to do that with the Neapolitan forces. That might have been an option, and we would have maybe tried to drop in at Toulon and picked up, in that case, we would have picked up another victory point, but that wouldn't have made a difference. Maybe the French might have picked up Amsterdam and picked up a couple of points, but I don't even think, if they got those 3 points and maybe another point with the cores being destroyed, they probably still wouldn't have won the scenario. So I think just on the luck of the rolls and the way the chits came out, I think the French just had the better situation. A lot more would have had to have been done better or gone better for the Austrians and the British for the coalition to win, and that just didn't happen. So I guess so far we're hitting pretty close to history here. Napoleon didn't have to do all the things we would have wanted to do. We would have done more cool stuff with them, but we didn't need to. And there's no reason to take on the risk if we have the win here. So, yeah, War of the First Coalition, French victory. Suvorov's campaign, major coalition victory, and then the Marengo campaign, French victory. So going back and forth, feeling pretty good about that. I think I'm going to call this video to an end here. So this one, I tried to be nice to you guys and give you a bit more content and actually show the individual actions taken. Even if I was moving pretty fast and not explaining every little thing, it still took a while. But I know the last several videos have all been very fast. I'm just banging through turns. At least this video gives you another zoomed in look at some of the mechanics again in motion before we start to head into the big show, which would be the 1805 campaign. Still not sure if we're going to do a full campaign based off 1805 start, or maybe we'll do like the year and we'll see where things stand, and maybe we'll re-rack the game for the other scenarios, the other shorter scenarios or other campaigns, just to kind of see how it goes. Because I'm sure what's going to happen is we'd do 1805, I would do like Austerlitz, and something would go terribly, terribly wrong, or I wouldn't knock Austria out of the war, and other goofy nonsense is going to happen that might make it really so far off the beaten path that I need to re-rack the game for 1809 or 1812 or whatever along the way. So we'll see those videos coming up in the not too distant future. Hope you enjoyed this one, guys. Thanks for watching. Take care. Keep gaming. See you in the next one.